Thank you, Mr. Jonathan.
Thank you.
Wait, before you take the second one, because this is a very critical statement you have made, the issue of transparency of the process, which is one thing that always confronts international election observers, almost in fact, in most countries. You may observe elections that are reasonably free and fair in the field, but the process of collating the results from the units, along the line, especially for countries that run a presidential system, for the presidential, this is even okay because they are only parliamentary elections. But countries that run the presidential system, that we have different levels of collation, there's always allegation of figures being changed. In some cases, as the observer group, globally, you have to be mindful about reports in the papers. We are not saying that those who report in the papers are reporting falsehood, no. But if, especially in the social media, where we know issues of fake reports, and of course you all know because you are mainly journalists, so we have to be very, very circumspect in making pronouncements. But we have received such complaints, and we are looking into it, and we'll finally, in our final report, because this is preliminary or interim report, in our final report, when we will go into details and investigate, our reports will be very, very firm on some of these infractions. And if there are infractions, as you have alleged, definitely those who are affected will follow the process. Comparing 2018 and 2024, yes, there's some improvement. We cannot say there was no improvement at all between 2018 and 2024. There are improvements. But there may be areas where the improvements are not very significant from your observation. But these are things that we will look into the report of our pre-election technical assessment, because people from Commonwealth were here before the election. I think they left in December. And we came for the election proper. And we look at everything and come up with the final report. And we'll be able to address most of these issues that you have raised. Yes, let the technical person add something.
Thank you very much for that question. Just from the Secretariat perspective as well, to mention that each observer group that is sent by the Commonwealth Secretary General, the subsequent group will look at the recommendations made by the previous Commonwealth Observer Group, which is exactly what the current group will be doing in their final assessment. Secondly, as the Chair said in his concluding remarks, that each election offers an opportunity to take forward the positive gains made in each election cycle. The Commonwealth's approach is to work towards a whole of election cycle approach in supporting its member countries. And in that context, those recommendations made previously will be very much taken into account. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Noreen Janjua from Geo News. Sir, the International Observer and your team, the Commonwealth team, were there on election day, and you have witnessed the whole electoral process. It was going peacefully. Despite of having huge security threat, Election Commission of Pakistan has conducted the whole election peacefully and successfully. But today, in a few international newspapers, they are raising the question on transparency of election. What would you say about it?
Thank you. I think this is almost a similar question as the previous one, the issue of transparency. Just like quoting you said that the Election Commission conducted the election peacefully and transparently, but that some international media are still raising some issues. Of course, that is normal society. People cannot agree on the same terms. There must be some reasons for people to raise those issues, but they are sensitive issues. We, as election observers, are expected to be extremely neutral and for us to make a comment that elections are not transparent, we must be very sure of our facts. And we're still looking into these facts. But if a media house makes us, we will also expect them to give instances. Because you will not use one incident in one out of number to make a concluding remark. But if they have done that and have done a proper analysis, definitely we'll look into it and it will be reflected in the final report. Citizen observers too were there. They will also make their reports available. You, the journalists yourself, were there because we met a number of you in the field. So one media house alone cannot condemn the elections. If elections are flawed, so many people will see it, not just one media house that will see it. So, but if one media house alone makes the reports, we also have to look into it. We can't be biased. We can't play politics with the elections of Pakistan. Individuals can do that. So that is our position. We can't say yes or no on the report that you are referring to, but we assure you that in our final report, we will look into all this.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Next question.
Thank you very much. I'm Matiullah Jana, a journalist working with the Neo Television. My question relates to the atmosphere and the sequence of events prior to elections, during which time large number of political activists were arrested, detained, and they were tried, including some political leaders convicted and sentenced to jail, including PTI leader Imran Khan. And then huge pressures on media, particularly journalists also, where we saw a large number of notices served on journalists just prior to polling day from the investigation authorities. Over 30 of journalists were served with notices by the FIA. And at the same time, we saw some decisions coming from judiciary, including the one that deprived PTI of its election symbol. So how do you see the state of independence of judiciary, independence of media, and due process of law, and particularly the prosecution of some of the political workers and leaders, and were the trials fair prior to election? And do you think all these related to the elections?
Thank you so much. If you read the report, which you will get a copy after this briefing, we'll actually dwell on that. The only issues you raise are in the report. In fact, especially the issue of detention of some political leaders, the issue of judgment removing the symbol of a particular political party. And I remember a very senior member of that party came to us physically during our interactions with stakeholders and I specifically asked, with all this, do you want this election to go on? You prefer these things to be looked at? Well, I said, no, we want the elections to go on. They were very firm that they want the election to go on. And that makes me happy because they said they want the elections to go on. So there were issues. But those issues, they believe they could still go on with the election. But anything that the Supreme Court of a nation makes a pronouncement, you must be mindful about, because except you go through the legal processes. But we all agree that those issues, that's why we raise in our report. And in our final report, we go into a little more deep into it. There's the need for those areas to be looked into by the government. So I totally agree with you. If judgments are given that will affect particular parties or candidates, or like the issue of pressure on journalists, which we made comments and we commended the journalists that in spite of the pressure, they kept to their commitment to society. So we make reference. So if you go and read the report, we cover all those ones. They are concerns to all of us. But in terms of details, we use that one to really condemn the process. What are the processes that took place before the election? That's the pre-election environment, which we commented on. But the election day proper, we felt that things were reasonably done. The issue of managing the results from polling units to where results are announced are the things that we will also look into it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Any other question?
Hello, John Beaver from Feature Story News. We're an international news agency. The Americans have said they were concerned about allegations of interference in the electoral process. The UK has said they had serious concerns over the fairness and lack of inclusivity, but your language seems to be very different to that. Do you disagree with that of the feelings of the Americans and the UK and the UN?
Well, we, as Commonwealth observers, we don't agree or disagree with people who have their opinion. We send people across the country. So our report is based on our observation. On the election day, it's based on our observation. The pre-election assessment is different as general issues of concern to society. But on that election day, we send people across, and our report is based on what we observe on the ground. We are not dissuaded by what a newspaper, whether in the US or UK or Germany or France or China, reports, or even in Pakistan. But what we observe. But we make reference to those issues. If you listen to, we made reference to, if any issue that is raised, we made reference to. But we rely more on what we observe on the ground. It's unfortunate that this particular Pakistan 2024 election, Commonwealth appears to be the only international observer that sent observers across the country. In some countries, we have up to 4 or more international observers that sent people across. So at the end of the day, you can compare what one group say and what the other group did not say. But this one appears to be the only group. Well, the citizen observers, that is the indigenous observers, they had more observers. They had about 6,000 observers from what they told us. They have also given their reports this morning. I was told that at 10 a.m. So I have no idea about what they said, but you can also listen to them because they are citizen observers. But we report based on what we observe. We are not disagreeing. They must have a reason to make those statements, but we keep to what we observe on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Any other question?
Thank you. Shahid Qureshi here, freelance journalist. When we dig out the Pakistani elections, we see that full of irregularities and rigging. And when we compare the last 2 elections, what do you think that when we compare the last 2 elections with the recent election, do you think that this election is less or more rigged and irregularities?
Thank you so much. The issue of comparing takes a lot of depth research work that within this short period, we concluded these elections last night. And, so on the 8th, yes. So it's difficult for us to now, of course, for you to compare 2 previous elections and this, you need to do some text research work. Because, you see, the observation of elections are based on different parameters. It's like interviewing somebody for employment. There are different areas you look at. Somebody may observe one incident during the election day or before the election and use that single incident to condemn or praise the electoral process. But for international observers, we have different parameters that we look at before we make some reasonable conclusions. So we cannot tell you that 2013, 2018, 2024, that 2018 was better and 2024. But what we can say is that in terms of the legal framework and some other key issues, for the purpose of managing the elections, there's some improvement. And we only encourage the country to do more. And when we send our final report, we'll isolate those clear issues where there's some improvement and mention it. And where we need further improvement, we'll also mention it. But for the preliminary report, we will not be in position. We have no time to do that depth research to do a major comparison of 2013, 2018, 2024.
Thank you very much, Chair. Any other question? No question. Thank you very much for coming. We've come to the end of our press conference. Thank you.